Oh no, you're there. You're back. You're
Can you
back.
hear me? Yeah, for anyone wondering why there's a guy on the call, I work for DELL and I've been working really closely with Natalia around DELL's benefits and grants. So yeah, just to let you know.
No,
But no,
I
thanks
just
very
thought
much for
thought
inviting
I
me.
would welcome you. And Jonathan's got a lot to do of how we've got Vannessa here today to really help you guys along your road of grants and funding. So we've got a main chunk of you here now. We're going to start because it's 12:05. Like I said, I know that it was a bit more of a difficult time for you at lunchtime, but it's going to be worth it. And like I said, we've done the work. So just a quick introduction to our host for today, Vannessa Sanchez. She's a grants and incentives specialist at the Grant Office and is dedicated to empowering women entrepreneurs by helping them secure funding for innovation and business growth. So she has a really strong background in navigating UK and international grant programs. And Vannessa's worked really closely with women-led businesses to identify the right funding opportunities to really, guide them through the application process, because we all know it can be pretty horrendous. Her expertise in funding strategies combined with her passion for supporting female-led ventures just ensures that women entrepreneurs have tools and knowledge to access resources. So at the Grants Office, they're proud to support DELL's initiatives, including the DELL Women Entrepreneurial Network, as a part of our commitment to fostering success for women-led businesses everywhere. And what we'll do is we'll put the link in the chat for the WEN network, and please do go check it out. Right, guys, with that said, I am going to pass you over to Vannessa.
Thank you, Natalie. Thank you, and everyone also welcome to join me. I am just going to share my screen, and that way you can see a little bit of like what I have prepared for you. I don't know if I am allowed to then share. It says.
Right. Oh, hang on a mo. You should be multiple participations can share simultaneously. I selected it now. Are you able?
Yeah, I think that it was also just my, oh.
Let me see, because it seems like Zoom does have me on another type of.
Okay.
I don't want to.
It's supposed to. Yeah, now it allows me. Yes. So.
Brilliant.
Now can you see my screen?
Yes, can see it now.
Okay. So then, as Natalia mentioned, we are going to be also like talking about like funding for all of you and all the opportunities that are outside. But of course, I first want to start by just giving you a little bit of introduction of what is happening right outside and what is important. What we are seeing, and also like, and this is also a contrast of what is happening in Europe and also what is happening in the US and China, because these two countries, US and China, are the ones that they have more entrepreneurs all around the globe, and also that they have like the most important startups. And then we want to be like them, right? That we want to arrive to that point. And what we are seeing is that the two different main things in terms of the European entrepreneurship is that we see that venture capital funding is 3 times greater in the US than what it is in Europe. And the private investment or venture capital market is 6 times largest in the US and Europe. So then these already give us a huge disadvantage. But what we are also seeing, it's not just about the entrepreneurial point, but also, for example, the unicorn startups that also ideally, like we are expecting that a lot of them, they become unicorn startups. And as we can see, Europe is really below China and the United States. And then when we contact like how many total early stage entrepreneurial activity, we can see that also the US is really high. And then it's followed by France and then Germany and the UK. So what we are seeing that indeed we need more investment for entrepreneurs and not just venture capital, right? So this is also something that the European countries, they just notice and they just say, okay, so what do we need? If there's no venture capital or if there are not going to be private investors, what we are going to do as nations is that we are going to support directly with funding opportunities. With public funding opportunities. So in this case, they are also going to say, okay, what we are going to then also focus, we are going to support minorities. We are also going to support a diversity of projects, and of course, to empower women, right? Because they have been noticing that there's also a huge disadvantage when we talk about business. When we talk about business, it's mostly men-led business, the ones that are like mostly like bringing everything to the market. But also there's a lot of studies that they have shown that, for example, women-led projects are like more prompt to really be positive and also to move to the next stage rather than men-led business. So what's happening? So then what we need is to really empower them to also focus in minorities, or in this case, is especially, for example, Black women and also Asian women and Latin women. So that's what we are also here. This is important. And then the only thing that I'm just trying to tell you is like that there's money outside and why there's this money. Right. Also because they are seeing that there are like 5 key pillars in the global competitiveness index that they are going to then also invest in order to then achieve to this. So they are also supporting institutions, but also one of the most important things is the innovation and technological readiness projects, but also goods market efficiency and labor market efficiency. So then they are also focusing that if they improve these 5 key pillars, also with the investments on the public and private funds, then also there's going to be an increase in this competitiveness across Europe and especially in the UK. So what we are going to see is that here I'm also just talking about like to contrast in terms of other countries like Germany and France, that with the UK, they're investing more than 4.4 billion in grants, loans, and other type of public funds in the upcoming 3 years. What do we mean by public funds? And this is also something that is really important for you to understand, and I'm here, is what is the difference between them? And even though that we are going to talk about public funds, there's also private funds that they are coming from corporations, private foundations that they are going to then also be able to do it. But these 4.4 billions, they are coming from public funds. And also what I mentioned when Europe noticed and the UK, hey, we need to invest in entrepreneurs, it was thinking about these 3 things. So grants, as you might know, or maybe not, is money that you are going to get and you don't have to pay back. The loans is money that they are going to pay you, they are going to then give you, but it's different than a bank loan, because what happens with this public funding of loans is that you are going to have then have a lower interest rate, and probably you will have to pay also at the end of the project. So then you don't have to pay immediately. And the other one are the tax credits that are going to be tax exemptions, and you can do it at the end of the year when you are like at the end of the fiscal year, that then they are going to make a discount on that. Now, why I'm also showing these 3 things, because sometimes grants, even though that they try to support the most as they can, they are also going to give you, because you are going to make a profit out of whatever you are developing, they are going to give you sometimes not the 100% of your the budget. Imagine that you are looking for 1 million, and then they are going to say, okay, we are just going to cover 80% of those eligible expenses. So that means that you have to make an investment of the 20% by yourself. So how you can cover that other 20% if you don't have the budget, then you can do it through one of the loans that also they are in here, or in this case, a private investor that, or like the network that you might have around you. Then what I'm also just going to talk in terms of like where the money is coming from, and this is also important for you to know, just to also later on when you are making an application to then see, and then that you are capable of see what is better for you in terms of where should I apply. So we are going to see that for the UK, we have the European Union is also giving some funds. And you are going to see that these programs, for example, Horizon Europe, is really big. They have like really, really big budget. They are also supporting entrepreneurs. But the problem with this is that it's like highly competitive, because this program, for example, is open worldwide. So that means that you are going to be competing with some other big entities. But then you also have programs like Eureka program that is also especially also for startups, entrepreneurs, and SMEs. And they are allocating money from the European Union specifically to the UK. And in this case, for example, they have a specific budget for the UK, and you are going to be able to apply for them. And you also do it through a national agency, right? But that money is coming from the European Union. And then what we are going to see that also in the UK, we have national government grants and also regional or more provincial grants. In this case, for example, you can go to the level of the city council closer to you, and in there you are also going to find grants or loans or other type of subsidies. In this case, we are going to see that also there are like two types. One is going to be competitive. That is mostly what we are going to be talking about. That means that you develop a project and you enter into a competition with other people that is making similar applications and to see who wins. But also you are going to see that there are certain kind of direct allocations. In this case, maybe you are not going to think that it's going to be allocated directly to you. But what is important is that these direct allocations can come, for example, what I was mentioning about the Eureka program, this money is coming from the European Union and is allocated to the UK, and then the UK decides how it's distributed. Or also you can do it that there's the national budget of the UK and then they allocate it to a specific regional or different parts, and then they decide how they are going to then use this money. What we are going to see that what is really common most of the times is that European programs are going to have like larger award sizes or like bigger budgets. And then as soon as then we start like getting like to a smaller or the localized level, it's going to have a less budget. But of course, there's going to be a correlation with how much money you are going to get and also how difficult the application is going to be, or the competitiveness and the longer timelines, right? Usually, for example, for a European application like Horizon or Eureka, it might take you three months to develop everything, right? And also it's going to be harder, let's say, because sometimes what they are saying is that you are not going to be working alone. In this case, because you are going to do a bigger project and they have a bigger budget, they are also expecting for you to then be working with other type of entities, either in the UK or in other parts of the world. What also happens is that sometimes they are saying, hey, you know what, we would like that for you, work hand by hand with another institution, a research institution, if you are like developing something in terms of the technological tools or emerging technologies, AI or something like that. But also it can happen that you are in the healthcare and then they are saying, okay, so then you go and work and apply your pilot project to the healthcare system. So this is also something that you are going to see. And of course, the regional or like more localized funds are going to be shorter timelines. That means that, for example, in 1 week you are going to receive, or in 4 weeks you are going to receive an answer, and they are going to be easier applications. There are applications that sometimes it's just like answer briefly 10 questions. So then you are also going to see that there's kind of a correlation between how much money you are going to get and how long it's going to take for you to get that money and how difficult it is. But don't worry, I am just saying this for you to be aware of the reality, but that doesn't mean that it's impossible. Now, I am just going to talk a little bit about the DELL Women Entrepreneurs program. And this is also the reason why we are here today. So in this case, for example, what we see is that the technologists, they are noticing that it's really important also to empower entrepreneurs, but not just entrepreneurs. They are also saying, especially women, because they are also seeing the benefits of like empowering women, and especially in different areas that there's a lot more to develop. Also, what we have seen is that most of them, if it's a men-led program, usually they are really focusing finance, money. And what we see with women entrepreneurs is that mostly it's also more programs that are like focusing in community systems, in healthcare, in education, in how we can improve, right? So this is also the kind of projects that then we really need to invest on, and that is really important that for this world and to try to make out of this world something better. So what are the benefits of the DWINE programs? They have different type of programs, and in this case, they call it Connect, Inspire, and Transform. There are maybe all the kind of things that you might need in order to then scale or to create a network, right? So then, for example, in the part of Connect, they are going to have mentor programs in terms of how you are going to be able to then, if you don't know where to start, for example, then you can go with them. They also have events where you are going to be able to pitch your idea, to be able to connect with other entrepreneurs that are also like start creating something bigger with somebody else. And also they have the chapters. On the other side, they have the part of inspiration, right? So then in this case, is everything to share the stories, and then also for you to learn from those stories, but also for you to have the opportunity to then be and talk about your project, right? There's never a better way to inspire somebody than talking, and also to connect with other people than to have a place where you can really go and talk what you are developing, and then later on either listen to some feedback or like have like possible investors, or also like other women that they would like to then create something with you. And the last part is like to transform. And in this case, is like DELL, what it's going to do is that they are going to listen to whatever you are doing. And then they are going to say, okay, so what kind of content and technology resources we can help you, or we have in our portfolio for you to then be able to create this. So as you can see, it's really circular. It's not just about the technology. And that's also like the beauty of the program. It's about how they are going to help you. And as part of this connect, is that you can get contact with grants office, and then we can help you out to then look for tailored grants for you. And we can help you in the application process, and also to everything that you might have, to answer all the questions that you might have related to specific grants. So giving you that, I just tell you about the Dwayne program, but then I'm just going to go back to the local grantscape. And of course, also, if you have some specific questions, please stop me, and I'm more than happy to answer to everything that you might need to know. What we are going to see in the UK is that there are different funding themes. And in this case, why I want to talk about this, because this is something that you are going to see that is always going to change. The funding, it's always, for example, when the pandemic happened, at that moment, it was, okay, we need to change the route of what we have until now. We have to then start giving a lot of money to then business to survive, to then otherwise to everybody like start working from home or these kind of things, right? So then this is something that is always going to change. And at the moment, what we are seeing where most of the money is going to is into R&D and innovation and digital development, and also sustainability. In this case, you are going to see that maybe this sometimes it can be really digital, but for example, sustainability is not necessarily just about net zero products or other technology that increase energy efficiency, but also, for example, how in all the process that you are making something, how is it sustainable? When we are talking about innovation, it's not necessarily, you don't have to always think about technology related. It can be an innovative idea that it's like changing the business that you are doing. So even it can be innovation in education. It's not necessarily like, hey, we are going to create this new tablet for the kids to learn. No, it's, hey, we have learned, we are doing something different in terms of how the methodology is being done. So this is what I mean by also innovation. Then what we are going to see, one things are the themes and the other one are the trends, right? So then I just want for you to know what are also other opportunities beside the public funds. And in here, we are going to see that, of course, the venture capital investment, you can also do crowdfunding, impact investing, then also focus on diversity and inclusion, then also shift towards remote investment. And also what you are going to see, you have your angels or corporate partnerships and accelerator programs. As part of the accelerator programs, we are going to see that there's also a lot of public funds available for this type of trend. And in here, for example, I'm just going to present you one of the grants that is has a rolling deadline that is focused in London. And as you can see, for example, this one is designed to support early stage social trading organizations that tackle social and environmental issues by offering services to marginalized communities in London. So also, this is also something that you need to consider whenever you are thinking about creating a project. Is also you have to think who I'm going to be benefiting, or who are going to be the ending users of this solution that I'm providing. And also, what is really important for you to think is that grants are not going to support products. They are going to support projects. So even though you are developing a product, you have to think it as a project. Hey, with how many people I'm going to work, who I'm going to then employ, who are going to be the end of beneficiaries, what type of problem I'm trying to tackle in here. So you have to always think about that. And that's why we are saying in this case that they are offering, this is for offering services to marginalized communities in London. In this case, for example, they also, besides the money that you can get, that is 22,000 pounds, they are also going to give you some in-kind contribution. That means that they are also going to give you some assistance in terms of mentoring, business support, training, network opportunities. They can also give you like ideas in how to pitch. They can also give you training in how to create like my marketing, the sales team, how I need to support. So then this is also the benefits of the public funds. It's not just about the money, it's also the in-kind contributions that they are going to be in terms for you to get to learn and to then develop that idea and to really make it a reality. As you can see, in this case, they are prioritizing those led by working with individuals for marginalized groups, including Black, Asian, or minority ethnic communities, and also LGBTQI people. Then the other one, for example, this one is the Female Founders Fund. And in this case, also, they have a really big scope of what type of initiatives they are going to support. The amount of money that you are going to get depends on the type of initiative that you are having. They are also opening all the time. And in this case, the main idea, as the name says it, is that you have to be, or the organization needs to be led by a woman. And in this case, as I said, like they have different categories. They have healthcare, they have beauty and personal care, vertical software solutions, generative AI and emerging technologies, and climate tech. So as you can see, they have different themes. It can be that you can fit into that. And I'm just presenting these two grants for you, not just to have an idea of what is outside, but as I said, if you need help into finding some specific resource for you, you can also contact us. In this case, also, I just wanted to give you a little bit of tools in terms of how you are going to create that successful grant-ready project. And what is the specific things that you need to then really have in the back of your mind. Okay, so of course, set the SMART goals of your project. As I was saying, you have to always think who is going to be the end beneficiary, where you are going to do it, how, why, and also you have to think already about, hey, is this something that already somebody else did? If so, what is my project different than the other one, right? Then, of course, you always have to think about that is measurable. So then the goals, that is something achieved, that you can achieve. Don't try to then also go all the way or try to then conquer everything. Also, it's sometimes better than you have to say, okay, this is what I can do. Otherwise, I will need more people, and that means that the project is going to be more expensive, and at the end, it's more difficult to control. Start by smaller steps. Then also, of course, that is achievable, that is results focus. This part of results focus, you are going to see that happens a lot in terms, they are going to ask you, what are you going to, in the questions that you are going to get for the grant, is like, who are you going to benefit? How you are going to then measure those results? How do you think that is going to then make a contrast with what it is? What is expected for it to happen if it works, right? And of course, then time bound. You can always have to think that you have a specific time. Don't try, it's the same that it goes to what I just mentioned before. You don't have to go over the top or try to consider everything. Just go small and something that you can really do. Okay, then what is really important in the moment that you are creating a project? In this case, the time is something really, really specific and really important. And I'm also just going to say, I know that maybe grants, some people say it as like it's free money. I'm going to say it's not free money. It just sounds like free money because it's money that you don't have to pay back. But it's not free money because you need to invest time into make the application, and not just to make the application, of course, but then later on to develop the project. And this is going to take a lot of time, sometimes depending on how complex the grant it is and how much money you are going to get. But they also have a specific deadlines. So that's why you have to always think about the calendar, how you are going to do it. So you have to then first read everything in detail about the project itself. What do I need to know? What do I need to answer? Read 3 times if it's necessary, everything, because sometimes we are just missing a little thing. And then just by this small thing, then you are not eligible, right? Or it's also about for you to read. It can be that your project fits into that program, but then they are just saying, but please focus a lot in the sustainability part. And just because you didn't do that, then you got rejected, but your project, it was something that it could have entered. Then of course, review all the guidance application. And that means, for example, okay, so I need to subscribe to the portal. Do I need to be registered? Do I need to register my fiscal entity in the website? What do I need in order to then be already in the portal? Then take time for the proposal development. In this case, also what I always suggest, I don't know if any of you had read like your bachelor thesis. Now, for me happened when I read, I was laughing. I was like, I don't even know how I got a degree.
I just realized I was off mute. Me too.
And then when I read the master's, when it worse, and the PhD when it worse, and I was like, my God, I don't know how they gave it to me, right? So this is really important, because what matters is that we need to give some time to rest, right? So then whenever you are writing something, especially something that is like your baby, something that you are developing, you are the one that understands everything about that. But are you making it clear for the other person? Are you really putting the goals in there, right? So that's why I'm saying sometimes it's better to then you write for 1 week, let it rest. The next week you come and open, and then you say, is it clear? Or also you can give it to somebody else to read it, even if it's not in your field. If that person understood what it was your main goal, then that means that is something positive. It's always like education, right? You always have to, even if it's something really complex, you have to always simplify it to the point that any mortal could understand. So let's think about that. Always make it like really clear, because also you have to understand that even the grant makers, they are not specialists in all the fields of that of what you are developing. For them, it's just important that it's clear and that everybody understood. In this case, as I said, like also we can help you out with the edit of your proposals as part of the DOEN program. So then also in this case, if you need an extra pair of eyes, and especially in grants office, we are really focused in, we know the grant program, so we know the previous winners, so we know how also they want for the words to flow. So then if you need it, then we are also always happy to read and edit your proposal. And of course, the last thing is the application deadline. Ideally, put in your calendar that you are going to submit it 2 days before the deadline of the program. Why? Because a lot of things can happen, and it can happen that you need to buy those 2 days to then do minor changes. Or also sometimes, depending on the type of grant, they are so competitive that sometimes the portal collapses, and then you cannot submit your application just because the portal collapsed in the last minute of the proposal. So then please do so. Always try to then deliver 1-2 days before the deadline. Now, what is also really important, and maybe this is going to be the biggest headache that you are going to have, is going to be the budget. In this case, please, I understand that it's so difficult because you have to start by how much money do I need for this? You need to start really start creating that. And you need also to understand the funding requirements to follow direction. So that means, how do they want this budget breakdown? Or if you need to justify that budget breakdown, hey, maybe you had to develop a project where you need to then break per stages of what you are going to do. And then per stage, you will have to say, okay, for this, I will need this amount of people, I will need this kind of resources, and so on. There are also a lot of entities that they support like indirect costs. So then you have the direct cost, that is mostly what you are always considering to spend. And then indirect costs that they are calculated even by the portal immediately in terms of what you will need, that it cannot be justified in there. Then also you can take a look if they allowed for you to subcontract somebody. It can happen that you are developing everything by yourself, but you need to subcontract somebody instead of making it a partner. So then just make sure that they allow. If so, how the percentage of the budget can go to subcontracting entities, and how you need to justify. So then just think about everything in terms of the budget, make it with time, and also that aligns with the narrative. Let's see, imagine that you are making 2 stages of your project, and it says, you know what, I'm spending more money just at the beginning than later on. But at the beginning, you are not having a lot of things to do. It doesn't make sense. Just because of that, the grant maker is going to say, sorry, this is not justified. So just because of the budget doesn't align with your narrative, we are not going to get it. Because the budget, unfortunately, it shows that you have done your homework, that you understand your project, and also you have understood how much you need to spend on it. Then what is also very important for you to have in the back of your mind in what you are going to need is essential documents that are going to be financial. Sometimes they are going to ask you, okay, what are the current and past budgets of what you are developing? Statements, vendor posts, also anything if you had already funding sources, if you apply already for another grant, then they also need to know that. And even, for example, if you have been granted in the past, that's totally fine. They even like sometimes to already put money in a project that has been funded. Why? Because they say, okay, so they already got the money. They already had to do all this dissemination. They already made what they promised to do. So then I can rely on them. Even I don't need to worry about that. So then in that case, please do so. And that's also something that is really important. Sometimes you can start by a small grant. That is a small amount of money. That is an easy application. You already went through all the mess of what it means to really apply for a grant. And then later on, you already have this. So then you can show them, I already won a grant. So then you should rely on me. The second thing is, of course, you always have to think about your own organization, like what are their values? What is the organization chart? Who is working in there? What are the priorities and the mission and the vision of your entity? Then also, of course, you are going to need sometimes, if you are a non-for-profit, you need the designation letter, or also you will need the business registration number if you are a for-profit entity. And in some kinds of projects, you are also going to need a memorandum of understanding for the projects if you are going to partner up with somebody else. You might need letters of support and also resumes for key project personnel. But this, like number 4, the required materials is really weird. Mostly is going to be the memorandum of understanding if you are working with somebody else. It's less frequent that you need letters of support or the resumes of the personnel. Okay, so what I'm going to tell you, what is really important in here for you to notice is that indeed the US is having like much more entrepreneurial support, but they have more private investors. So that's why Europe now is thinking, okay, they have private investors. In Europe, there are not so many private investors, but that's why the government is going to then support you. Then, of course, there's a lot of investment in R&D, but also you are also have to think about the hot topics. As I mentioned today, the hot topics in the UK now that they are like also emerging technologies and sustainability, you also have to think on that. But that doesn't mean that just because this year that is a trend topic, the next year is not going to be. For example, also during the work with Ukraine and Russia, when it started, also a lot of money was just to energy efficiency and also gas and other type of energy, sustainable energies. Why? Because there was a crisis. And you are going to see that this is always going to change. In the UK, also after Brexit, they start like giving a lot of subsidies for companies to stay in the UK instead of like going or moving abroad. Or also they start like giving also a lot of subsidies for exportation and so on. So you are going to see that also depending on what is happening around the country and the globe, you are going to see where are those hot topics. Now, imagine that you just say, okay, I just want to apply for a fund. Where should I take a look at? So in this case, I'm just going to tell you. For example, the UK has a database where it has most of the grants that they are offering. And I'm saying most because that database is not totally good. But you can subscribe there, and then you can also say like what are your interests, and then they are going to then send you newsletter or new information about like what are going to be the funding opportunities. Of course, there are like some also funding banks of the States, and in this case also you can find in their website all the resources. And always subscribe to all the newsletter. In this case, it can be from funding portals. It can be from consulting companies like us. It can be like also, for example, like from private foundations that you see that they are also offering some initiative for startups or entrepreneurs, then also go there. And just last and not least is the EU funding and tender portal. And in this case, for example, also you can just make, it's really intuitive. And in there you can just say, you know what, I'm based in the UK. I am this, and this is exactly what I'm looking for. And then they are going to also like filter it. And then they are going to show you all the opportunities that are outside there. Then just I just want to give you the last tip that is going to be like, always think about the funding strategy. As I said, like make it on time. Really read everything, what you really need to do in order to make that application a success. Then always think about the budget. This is going to be something difficult, but then please do so. Be concise. In that case, as I mentioned before, please, even if it's like something really technical, what you are going to do, try to make it like simple. As I mentioned, the grant maker really needs to understand what you are doing. And maybe the communication is the best way to do it. Like how you communicate it is the way that you can then deliver that. And if you need support, there are many ways that you can get support. You can get support with grant writers. You can get support with the network around you. You can get support by doing initiative with us. You can get support also, even like, it's important that you are always talking about what you are doing. You never know where this kind of support is going to be. And then I just want to hear if you have any questions.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you, Vannessa. There's some questions that went off in the chat. If you do have any questions, ladies, please feel free to just pop them in the chat and I'll read them out, or simply just come off mute. Obviously, all the questions are related to the presentation with Vannessa. I know we're a big community and we do a lot of different things, so sometimes questions can filter in from other things that we're doing. But for today, it's just around the presentation that Vannessa gave us. And let me just go through the chat. So we've got Paulette is in the startup stage of her clothing line. Rebecca is the technology ed tech. These are just some of the comments before we kicked off. Right, one of the questions, Vannessa, is for some of like the Power Up London Accelerator, for example, do you have to be like a community interest company or a charity, or can you be a limited company, a sole trader, just to talk around business status?
Yeah, this is supporting mostly for-profit organizations. But if you are a charity and then you are looking for something similar like that, then I can help you out to find that grant. But this specific one is for entities, for private entities, non-charity.
Brilliant, because that's one of the questions that came up a lot. Also, Natasha's asking how frequently are grants issued. She says she may have missed it in the beginning, but I think it depends on the grant.
Okay, yeah. In that case, for example, depends on the grant. But what we are seeing in the UK, for example, there are certain grants that you are going to notice, and this is important, if they have a date. For example, there's one that is Innovative UK Smart Grants, and then it says July 2024. And then there was previous one that it was April 2024. So if you are seeing something like that, it means there is a grant that it comes continuously, right? So then this specific one that I'm talking, as soon as this one closes, the new version of it opens the next day. Or you are going to see something similar as round 5 or round 6, right? So then after the title, if it follows something that means that this is a continuous grant that it has been giving maybe once per year. Or maybe every 3 months. So then this one depends in terms of like when they are going to appear. I think that answers the question. There are going to be some that, yes, it was a single grant, but what you can see is that they're always going to have something analog, like similar the next year. Especially for the UK, what they do is they receive feedback of, hey, this grant maybe now is too tech and maybe we should focus more on social. So then they try to change, but maybe with the same type of topic. So then you are able to find it.
Oh, thank you for that. And good question, Natasha, as well. Actually, I think a lot of women will find that helpful. Next, we've got Rachel has asked, please, can people from other countries, such as Nigeria, be beneficiaries of the grant?
Okay, so in that case, there are other type of grants that indeed are going to be eligible for Nigerian or other African countries, but not these ones that I mentioned. What is happening is that the UK, what it does is that they create some specific partnerships with different African countries specifically, and then they are giving support for that. So then if you want to get to know some other grants for Nigeria, I'm happy to then, you can contact me and I'm happy to help to find you those.
Brilliant. And guys, I put the link in for DWEN in the chat. I'll put it in again. Make sure you subscribe, because in that way you'll get updates of what's happening in the network, etc. Next question is Paulette Higgins. How long does the grant process take?
That's a good question and really common question. When do I get my money? So in that case, as I'm going to say, that one is going to depend on what I was mentioning, like how big the award it is going to take more time. So what we see, for example, with the European grants, it can take up to 8 months. Since you start your application, you submit, and then you get a result, it's going to be 8 months. If you are asking for a smaller award, for example, there's one that is called Scaling Up UK. And in this case, for example, that one, you have an answer and you get the money in 4 weeks, but you are going to get up to 18K. So then you are going to see that there's a correlation between how much money you are asking for and then like how long it's going to take. Also, what it can give you an idea is you are going to see sometimes that it says when it's opening the grant and when it's closing. So depending on when it's opening and closing, is telling you also how long maybe it should take you a grant to then for you to develop it, and then later how long it's going to take. So if it was open for 2 months, it means that they are expecting you to then later on give you an answer 3 months later.
Okay, brilliant. Natasha's also asked, should we be registered somewhere to receive notifications? I think this is for WEN. She's asking, will notifications come through the platform?
So notifications about the DWAIN program, yes, you need to then register there. I think that you already provide the link, Natalia.
Yeah, and I provided the link as well. And guys, I'm actually going to be sending out a summary email today as well. The decks won't be available to you because obviously those are Vannessa's, but those of you that went through the 4-week program that are in the community, the recording will be just inside our gated community for those that attended. And within it, I'll put all the links and the instructions in there, so that's fine. Next question is from Josephine. Would you say that there are many grants from the US available to British entrepreneurs?
From the US to British entrepreneurs. My question will be more, why do you want to establish in the US as a UK entrepreneur, or why you are interested in getting those benefits from the US? Because in that case, I would
Josephine, feel free to come off mute if you can.
Hi, Vannessa. Sorry, can you hear me? I'm in a really noisy environment. Okay.
We can actually hear you loud and clear.
Oh, perfect. Okay, that's good. So the only reason I'm asking is because when I look at grants, there just seems to be way more opportunity over there. So that's why I was asking, are there,
So no, in that case, that's why I was just saying, like, if you are planning then to move to the US, and then yes, it will make sense for you to look for US grants. But then yes, no, in this case you cannot do it. So then it's better for you to look for UK grants. But maybe what you are seeing is that you are not seeing all the scope, because we also have presence in the US, and when we have analyzed how much money goes for entrepreneurs in total from the budget, it's more in the UK in terms of comparing like the size of the country, the population, it's bigger in the UK than in the US. So maybe you are just like needing to look for more resources and then look for in the correct places.
Okay, thank you so much for answering that, and also for a great presentation.
Thank you.
It was very great. One more, we've got Tasha G. I am in the early stages of developing a platform that will utilize AI and virtual reality. Do I need a prototype to access a grant, or can an idea that a funder deems as good potential get funding without a prototype? Excellent question.
Yes. So in that case, for example, you are going to apply, let's say you can apply in the 2 stages, in the development of the prototype, and then in the potential like a prototype, like when you create the prototype or without it, right? That's totally okay. This is going to be maybe a different type of grant. So this is what it's important. And at the end also, for example, is how well you justify that you are doing the prototype, or you are thinking that maybe you are going to develop that prototype, but then in which stage you are. So it depends on which stage you are, is what type of grant you are going to apply. I don't know if I was clear, because I think I went a little bit all over, but don't worry, there's with or without the prototype, there are grants for sure.
Brilliant. Joe, we've got here about the African grants. It says which organizations, but I'm assuming once joining DWEN, that information would be available for that reason. For that region, sorry, not reason. Am I correct in saying, Vannessa?
In terms of the grants, I don't think that in Dwayne they are going to be able to find it, but then I am the person that you can connect for the.
Great. So we will connect, and if anything as well, I can then forward those questions over to Vannessa just to make sure that you get that information, Rachel. So again, please make sure that you flag this inside our community to Princess, and we make sure we get that answered for you. I've then got a few more questions coming in as time's coming to an end. Are there grants available for faith-based businesses? I ask this because a lot of grants specifically say that they don't fund faith businesses.
Okay,
question.
that's a really specific one. And then, to be honest, I have never heard about non-opportunities, but probably you like what it is.
Neither have I, actually.
No. So in that case, for example, what is important is that indeed there is going to be certain kind, and maybe what you are looking at is a really regional or like a specific grants. And what you are going to see is that, of course, the eligibility is going to be smaller. But for example, when you take a look to a national grant, it's going to be available for everyone. So then maybe this is where you should start looking rather than to then try to look in other councils that they don't have, they are not going to support this kind of this business. But the national, for sure.
Brilliant. And Miriam has asked, hi, we deliver online education for children and adults, tuition, homeschooling, adult courses. Can we apply for the grant? Miriam, I can actually answer that question. Yes.
Yes, you can apply for several grants. There's also like grants in terms of workforce development, also for education. It's also in this case exactly what you are doing. In this case, online education for adults, it will fit into workforce development grants. And there's a lot of opportunities outside. And in children, then also it's more about like how you develop that project. But yes, there are.
Absolutely brilliant. And coming to the end of the questions now, Diane Riney, if my business is trying to engage with a lot of customers outside the UK, could you apply for grants in the US or Africa? Interesting question.
Okay, so you are trying to guess a lot with the customers outside the UK. For example, in that case, I will suggest there's a grant that is called Eureka Global Stars. I'm sorry, I don't know if you can hear the.
Yeah, we can a bit. They're gone. They're gone now.
Okay, sorry. So in that case, for example, I'm going to suggest you more to then go and apply. There's a grant that is Eureka Global Stars, and exactly that's what they are doing. Hey, you are based in the UK, but then you want to expand globally. That's your grant. So then exactly what I'm going to say. So I am just going to say it's going to be more difficult for you as a UK entity to try to apply to grants in other countries than to do it in the UK. What happens with Africa in terms like in all the continent, why there are grants from the UK to the continent is because they feel guilty about like what they have done. And of course they will pay, right? But
I love that.
Exactly.
I absolutely love that. Josephine has asked, even though Diane asked that question, Josephine has said, how do you spell that grant? And I'll type it into the chat.
Which one?
The one that you could you're got customers outside of the UK.
Yeah. Eureka Global Stars.
Okay, yeah, brilliant. It's in the chat, everybody. Absolutely brilliant. Paulette is also asking, also in terms of, and just one more question after this, guys. Paulette said also in terms of support. Oh, it's gone up. In terms of support, how are you connected to relevant person in terms of your business? So I think what Paulette's saying is, are you allocated to someone that has speciality around your business area?
Okay, so in this case, you mean like me, Vannessa, or grants office, or
the grants office?
Okay, so how do we work? We have a partnership with DELL. So that means that DELL is putting us in contact with all their customers, and we help them out to then look for funding opportunities for them, and also to then help them out in the application process. And this is going to be something that is subsidized, let's say, or paid by DELL, our services, if you have an engagement, like, for example, like somebody like Johnny, that is here present, or by the Dwayne portal. And in there, you can have access to grants office, and then we can help you out in the application and to get to know specific grants, specific for your project, and so on.
Brilliant. Yeah. And brilliant. And guys, like I said, I will be doing a summary of this because I know we've been working away the last 4 weeks to kind of get in pitch ready. So all these questions have really been relevant. I actually think Yeah, Miriam, everything's going to be going up inside our community, and you'll get an email with it in terms of the grant application, the things that we discussed. So brilliant. Right, that actually bang on time brings us to the end of our Q&A. And Vannessa, I cannot thank you enough. Your presentation was absolutely brilliant. I hope you'll come back to visit us again. I know that the ladies got a lot out of that, and the questions that were asked were actually really, really great and super helpful were the responses. Yep, Josephine said, thank you for a great session, Vannessa and Natalia. But yeah, that's absolutely brilliant. Any further questions that you've got, guys, I think we're going to have a feedback session after today. I can then feed everything back through to Vannessa. It'll be easier for you to reply as a whole to our community rather than getting all these individual queries, as we'd like to see you again.
Yeah, and also I'm going to be sharing the slides, so then please use them as
perfect, and I will share them with you in return. So thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Vannessa. I really, really enjoyed today, and I'm just super excited as our community grows, everyone. That, can you believe that we got DELL, we got Vannessa here, and there's just a lot of exciting things happening. There's so many organizations and initiatives that are there to support our community, and we just want to make sure we're at the forefront of just receiving that all. So thank you so much. And Jonathan, big thank you as well. Working with you this last year has been brilliant. We finally got to the stage where we've delivered this today, so thank you so much for all your support.
Yeah, of course. Not a problem at all. Looking forward to working with you again in the future. So thank you very much.
I'm going to send you an email after this session.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. Glad it all came together well, and everyone found it very useful. So no, fantastic.
Yeah, and everyone, we're going to be working with Jonathan a lot more. So I know one of the things that keeps coming up is also our technology. Especially for those of you that are developing software and apps, and all of us that are now streaming, doing video content, our laptops and computers have become our home office. So we're going to be doing some tech hub stuff. Just watch this space, guys. There's quite a lot of things that we're going to be doing with DELL, so watch out for it.
Amazing. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Perfect.
Thank
you, guys.
All the success.
Take care. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.